Thank you very much. It's great to be here. I'm glad that you're joining us this afternoon. This will be the most exciting session that you participate in these 3 days. So, thank you. My name is Dan Marshall, as was stated. I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Field Operations for Elemental. Elemental was recently acquired by AWS as they were looking to bring media-based workflows to the cloud. And Elemental has got a rich history of providing encoding solutions to the media entertainment for the past 10 years. We started 10 years ago, just like AWS. We've had some great success. We count some of our customers here in Korea, KT, SK Broadband, CJ Powercast, MBC, and KBS. So Korea has been a very good market for us. We're very privileged and honored to be part of AWS. And we think that we're going to do some great things together as we talk about moving media workflows into the cloud, which I'm going to talk a little bit about today. So we'll start about why cloud computing. It all happened in 2006 when AWS launched its first cloud services. And if you take a look at the benefits of this, of cloud, they were pretty obvious. And because we have the benefit of 10 years of history, we know for a fact that the advantages of moving to cloud are operational cost savings, very flexible, lower variable costs, no need to guess at capacities. That's a big concern today for our customers. How much storage should we have on site? How much capacity, transcoding and encode capacity should I use? Moving to the cloud eliminates all that. You use what you use and you pay for it as you use it. It's the benefit. I think all of us understand that. Moving to the cloud allows for agility, speed, and innovation. It removes some what we would call undifferentiated heavy lifting when it comes to upgrades, technology refreshes. By moving to the cloud, you get to avoid that and take advantage of great infrastructure. And the other piece of this is going global in minutes. As you move workflows to the cloud, you have the benefit of an AWS services that spans the globe. So solutions can be done globally very quickly. Huge advantages. Customers are experiencing these benefits across all industry, workloads, and company sizes. Whether you're a small company, a developer, or whether you're a Fortune 500 global firm, companies are now doing a lot of workflows, a lot of processing, and using cloud-based services and solutions to power their enterprise and their IT needs. But what about media entertainment, right? I think we're all familiar with Netflix, great model. 2009, Netflix went all in with AWS. They're one of AWS's largest customers today. They do all of their encode processing, storage, and delivery using AWS. It's a tremendous story. And since then, AWS continues to bring in more and more media entertainment companies like Time Inc., Major League Baseball. You guys, any baseball fans here? MLB. I was watching it today here on a local app. Fantastic. Again, MLB bought in completely to AWS. Very large media entertainment property, also using AWS. So the destination for AWS is spanning all types of enterprises, like we said. Netflix, MLB. You can see a grouping here of customers that have moved anything from universities. So it spans everything. That's a beautiful thing about the cloud and the services that AWS offers today is that it's not niche-y and it doesn't just appeal to one segment of the industry. It includes all segments of industry, all company sizes. So let's talk about media, because is media really different? Right? That's the question that we ask. And I want to pull your attention to a couple charts here. Now, I want to preface this by stating that what I'm showing here is based on US. Okay? But I think this is very applicable globally. And what we're showing here is the top broadcasters, media operators in the US. And this is the percentage of viewership that has happened, the change. And you can see here in this group, the 1 to 10 largest networks. These are networks like ABC, CBS, NBC. These are the largest networks in the United States domestically, and they're getting an increase in viewership. On the out layer, you have a lot of niche programming. These are things like the tennis channel, the ice skating channel, the quilting channel. These are very specific, niche-y. And most of this is done through special OTT direct-to-consumer models. The area in the middle here that has seen a decrease in viewership is this middle tier. And in the United States, it's channels like Sci-Fi Channel, Hallmark Channel, Oxygen, these type of properties. So they have a real concern. How do they get their content to be viewed more? And so they're really looking at the OTT service to help them do this, okay? Up. On the other side here, we have what's called cord cutting. I think that's a very familiar phrase here globally. And what we're seeing is that the consumers are cutting their cord or cutting their cable, their pay TV services, their expensive pay TV services, and moving to more economical models. And an economical model today could be, I'm going to cut my cable subscription, which may cost me in the United States $200 a month, and instead I'm going to subscribe to Netflix, which is $20 a month. I'm going to subscribe to Amazon Prime, so I can get my Amazon Instant Video, and I can get that for free if I'm an Amazon Prime subscriber. And just for the record, 40% of US households are Amazon Prime, so there's a lot of video, right? And today, one of the biggest arguments for staying connected to these cable operators was that consumers wanted access to real sports, and live news. Well, the migration to OTT makes it possible today, for example, the Major League Baseball. I was watching live here from Korea on my app, live sport, and I was also watching live NBA. If you're familiar with the National Basketball Association, right? The Golden State Warriors, that's my home team. They were playing Oklahoma. They got beat by Oklahoma. I'm very depressed. I'm sorry if I seem sad, but I just found out an hour ago when the game, 2 hours ago when the game concluded, my team lost. I'm not happy about that. But the point is that I can go ahead and get live news and live sports and all the entertainment that I want through these OTT services without having to pay some of these cable. And that's why we're seeing this cutting the cord rate happening domestically. So there's a lot of, again, a huge emphasis on those other services, live sports and live news, coming over OTT. Being a subscriber to that, I can get all the experience that I would normally get through a cable operator, through a very expensive, by using cord cutting. Okay, so there's just some interesting metrics to understand as we talk further about digital media in the cloud. So when we look at digital media in the cloud, we can see that the benefits are very similar to the benefits that we stated earlier when we were talking about the enterprise moving some of their IT applications to the cloud. Primarily, again, trading capital expense for variable expense, right? Data centers to support media are expensive. There's storage, there's encoding, there's processing, there's contribution encoding, there's production, there's editing. I mean, it's very expensive to build data centers to support this. By moving to the cloud, you can take that CapEx, move to a variable expense, and really manage cash flows better. Much more economical and much more flexible. You get a benefit from economies of scale. I don't know how many billions of dollars Amazon, AWS has spent on their data centers, but it is huge. Their data centers, the economies of scale there, all companies that are looking to do AWS services in the cloud today get the benefit of this massive scale, which means that you can enter and start migrating workflows to the cloud much more cost effectively today than you could have 8 years ago or 6 years ago while Amazon was continuing to build out. Their infrastructure today is extremely mature, extremely sophisticated, and very robust. And as users, enterprise users, we get the benefit of that in terms of costs. Again, you don't have to guess about capacity. I get this question a lot. How much transcoding processing should I calculate? Should I budget for? And because the cloud model is a pay-as-you-go model, it doesn't matter. If you have certain peaks, you'll pay for it when you're using services in the cloud, and when you don't pay for it. And we'll get into some specific examples about that here in a little bit. Increased speed and agility, again, decreasing time to market is very expensive. We have a customer in the United States called Fox. Fox is a very well-known international company. Fox predicted that it took them about 4 to 5 months to go ahead and bring new channels to their broadcast operations. 4 to 5 months. We're doing new broadcast channels in less than 2 weeks using the cloud. You think about the time and money savings to bring a channel in 2 weeks versus 3 to 4 months. That is significant. And that allows them to create services faster and recognize potential revenue streams faster. And because they're leveraging the cloud, they can go global in minutes. Fox is a worldwide global property like Discovery, like HBO. And moving their workflows into the cloud, now it gives them the entire world as a potential distribution by using AWS. And to be able to do this very, very cost effectively. And then the fact is that a lot of the content owners today are getting away from maintaining data centers. This is very expensive. And they've made vows that there will be no more CapEx spent, no more data centers. They're too expensive to maintain. And now that workflows are actually successfully migrating to the cloud, it's possible for them to move away from their data centers and actually move these sophisticated media workflows into the cloud. Where Elemental fits in all of this, pretty simply, we are this encoding engine in the center. We take video being produced, we take a look at the video factory. Here is the capturing of video. We take that captured video and we process it for multiple outputs, multiple devices, and we get that content through either to the set-top box, which is a traditional live linear workflow, all the way to mobile phones, tablets, and laptops, which is an OTT strategy. So we've enabled hundreds, thousands of customers worldwide to take their content and to get it in the hands of the end users, either through traditional means, live linear, or to mobile phone. And all this workflows today are being enabled in the cloud. But there's a bigger trend at play here we want to talk about when we talk about on-ramping to the cloud. First off, we know we can drive down costs with elastic cloud solutions. We also know that we can optimize workflows for ingest and egress of premium content. And we also know today we can unify head-ends. So what does unified head-end mean? Traditionally, when we had customers, whether they're content owners or whether they're content aggregators and distributors, they would have to build separate infrastructure to deliver video to the set-top box and separate infrastructure to deliver video to the OTT world, to the tablets and laptops and cellular phones. By unifying a head-end, we can, in the cloud today, service both needs from a single infrastructure. Again, which means a decreased costs, greater flexibility, and more efficiency for our customers. And we'll talk a little bit about these workflows. So let's look at 3 use cases. Driving down the costs through elasticity. Everyone familiar with the BBC? Great world brand, good original content, good news. The challenge they had was they have millions of users daily using thousands of devices that want to access their content on multi-screen. And so what they were looking at is the possibility of building a solution that provided all of their VOD-based transcoding and encoding and all of their live linear in the cloud on demand, right? The benefit here is that BBC, with all of its content, they recognized that most of the consumption of their content was happening at certain periods of the day. Happened in the morning before consumers went off to work to watch news. In the afternoon, when the kids got home from school and wanted to watch some programming for children, and in the evening when there was news and special content, their own content, like Downton Abbey, which was a very famous BBC show, or Doctor Who. Any Doctor Who fans here? I'm a Doctor Who fan. So by doing this, they were able to capture the live broadcasts. We'll build the set here. They have the source. They would capture the content, it would move through AWS Direct Connect for very fast transfers to S3. The original content, what we would call the mezzanine format, is held in S3. Then the video processing would happen either for a linear or a VOD-based applications. Linear meaning there's a set time that the BBC is going to deliver that content, and so it sends that content at that specific time. And also processing VOD. So if I'm a user using an OTT device, I can go ahead and choose when I wanted to see that original content. It would be distributed through a CDN and then off to the end devices. So we did this Elemental Cloud processed all in H.264, and it allowed BBC to ramp this very dynamically. But the key important driver to this was the cost savings. As I was mentioned earlier, and this is the peak usage during the day, so this is time. This is that morning time when the consumers are looking at the news content before heading off to work. This is afternoon and this is evening, right? But because the BBC is only being charged for the usage when they're using it, they saved a great deal of money. Because if they had to build their infrastructure to support peak demand, you can see that they would have had to spend a lot of money on on-premise products to go ahead and accommodate these peaks. They estimate that they save between $1.2 and $1.8 million per year using cloud versus having to manage and maintain an on-premise infrastructure. Okay? It's an amazing amount of savings. A great use case for moving full workflows. And this is full VOD and linear workflows for all of their OTT distribution. Very impressive. Second use case, we're talking about optimizing workflows for ingest and egress on premium content. This was a great example. The 2014 World Cup. I assume that we have some soccer fans here, football fans, and you had a chance to watch some of it. It was very exciting. And what the challenge here was that our customer, in this case was a customer called EVS, they wanted to quickly and efficiently prepare up to 3,900 hours of live and catch-up TV for coverage. Now, think about the way that we view soccer games, the football games. We typically would go to a television, we would turn the television on, and we would see the game that's being broadcast, okay? What EVS wanted to do was give consumers the ability to see any game, anytime. Didn't matter where or when it was going to be published on the broadcast stations for the content rights holders. They wanted to build an experience for the users, the consumers, that they could see any game they want at any time. So the solution was looking at a combination of Elemental Cloud and AWS EC2, providing this elasticity and this connectivity and this distribution that allowed for a very excellent user experience. And I want to talk about this because this was really cool. So when you take a look at what they did, there were 12 stadiums throughout Brazil that had the soccer matches going on, and they were going on at different times, right? And they were using a fiber to connect the video to an S3 storage in Dublin. This is the Dublin location of AWS, it's their infrastructure there. And then we were using the Elemental transcoding both for VOD and linear delivery. So you could watch the games live, or you could use a live to VOD service to get catch-up TV later. So I could record it, I could see a game when I came home from work, I could rewind it, I could start it over. But the unique thing about this is when you looked at the capture, they were capturing from multiple cameras within the stadium, right? So not only could I go ahead and choose the game that I wanted to see, I could actually choose the camera that I wanted to see it from. I could rewind, and I could see, key plays played over from different camera angles. A great user experience. Then the delivery was done through an AWS the data transfer agent, through a CDN, to display devices here, the end users. Now EVS was the primary delivery company supporting this. And they supported it as a white label service, meaning They went to the content, the rights holders in all of the countries globally who had the rights to distribute the World Cup, and they sold this as a service that right holder could go ahead and OEM, right? So if it was, I'm not sure who the Korean rights holder was, but in the United States it was NBC. So NBC got a hold of this service, and they got it as a white label, so they put their logos on it. And as an NBC subscriber, I could go ahead to this OTT service and watch any game that I wanted to any time from different camera angles. It was a fantastic user experience. It was wildly successful, wildly successful. And again, the benefit here was the cost savings. Because this was done entirely in the cloud, there was no CapEx spent for this, right? It was an amazing feat. Again, here's the usage pattern over time. These were the beginning games when you had a lot of different countries playing each other, and this is as they kind of winded down towards the championship. If you had to go ahead and build the infrastructure to handle peak, they'd have spent millions of dollars in infrastructure to support this, and they would have had to own it, right? So after the games, they still had this asset sitting around depreciating and taking up data center, taking up costs and expense. By moving to the cloud, they eliminated that. And after World Cup was done, they spun it down. Again, they only used or paid for what they used. And so when they were done with this event, they just eliminated it. Now they're spinning up the technology again in the cloud to support the Summer Olympics. So they're going to run the same model for the Summer Olympics and white label it to the right content right holders in the countries globally. And again, it'll be all done through a variable OpEx model, all enabled in the cloud. A great example of handling the excess capacity and reducing egress charges, and this was a very complex workflow. You know, to do the live to VOD type of services, it was very complex. And to enable all of this through AWS EC2 really speaks to the maturity of the ecosystem that AWS has created. The last example I would like to talk about is the unifying headends, which I mentioned earlier. Very significant. And this is the Amazon Video Live Streaming. You heard me talk about it earlier. This is AIV, Amazon Instant Video. And this is where all of the video distribution comes from. So if you subscribe to this, you know, you have access to Starz and Showtime and a lot of other, both original content and non-original content. But Amazon is live streaming this. All different types of shows, very successful. If you haven't seen some of the Amazon shows, they're really cool. One of my favorites is Man in a High Castle. That's a fun one. I would recommend it. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's good content. And what they've done here is, you know, they take the source content in, either coming in a live satellite feed or VOD, and they direct connect it to some ingest logic. They've built a completely redundant Elemental Live scenario in 2 different regions. So you have Elemental Live and redundancy within redundant regions. You have Elemental Delta, which is your origin services. This is what provides some of the live to VOD, which is really cool because today, live to VOD is primarily being handled by the set-top box. But the live to VOD and some of these, what we call NDVR, NPVR, cloud DVR, CDVR functions are happening today in the cloud without the use of having to have a set-top box. So really enabling, again, some very advanced features with minimum investment from the content aggregator and the consumer in this case. Coming out to a load balancing and then out to different CDNs. Ultimately, the ultimate goal, getting to these display devices, but to build this entire linear workflow in the cloud, supporting both the potential to deliver to set-top box and live linear, and the potential to run OTT services with live to VOD and some of these special live to VOD catch-up services through the cloud is an amazing engineering feat again. All right, you know, media aggregators and distributors and content owners spend millions of dollars to build this type of infrastructure in data centers, and it's available today to do this in the cloud through the AWS ecosystems and partners that exist out there. Very exciting stuff. So there's been huge advances in moving these video workflows to the cloud that are being realized today. And I think this catches a lot of our customers and a lot of the market by surprise, that this market has become so mature. Some of the other services that are used are Amazon. This is the EC2, which is their processing. They've got, you can use the storage services, whether it's Glacier or S3. But a great ecosystem has been built to support this. And again, this is the whole looking at the AWS components here, from ingest to processing, analyzing and load balance to delivery. So the combination of the AWS components and the live workflows really have helped our customers start to migrate their complex video workflows into the cloud. Just like our customers today, we're spending a lot of investment in new technologies and furthering technologies. The 24/7 live linear video, this requires very high quality. This is the delivery of content to traditional set-top boxes. And we're making huge investments in that. We always want to be known as to having the best quality possible, because the best quality means that the consumers are going to have the best experience. And you know, if you've done any business with Amazon at all, we're completely obsessed about taking care of our customers and making sure they have the best experiences when it comes to any product or services that's being acquired through the Amazon family. Channel playout is a very important one. OTT services today. Most of the customers who are doing OTT, content delivery, aggregators, it's important that they start to present these OTT channels like a baseband channel, like a traditional channel. And so what we've done is we've added the ability through our encoding technology to do things like logo insertion, animation, squeeze backs, bottom thirds. So a playout channel on OTT today can look exactly like a playout channel for a live linear device going to a set-top box, right? And this is really important to news agencies and sports agencies. If you ever look at ESPN, you know, they've got a primary picture video going on in the middle, and you've got stats along the bottom, and you've got stats along the sides, and you've got logos and animation. And to be able to do that on an OTT channel without having to purchase any upstream or downstream character generators, again, a great cost savings, very efficient, very flexible. We're doing things like server-side ad insertion. If you're like me, your mobile devices, you know, whether it's a laptop or whether it's a phone or whether it's a tablet, I use ad blockers. I think everybody uses ad blockers. They seem very popular. It's great for us, but it's not very good for advertisers because they like to see their advertisements being viewed, right? And so server-side ad insertion is a way, it's a strategy that's being used where the ad blockers can't detect the ads. So the ads get to the consumers, the advertisers like that, and they're willing to pay money now for the distribution of ads over the OTT channel, just like they are ads over a live linear channel. Cloud DVR services, as we mentioned, without the use of set-top boxes, I can do start over, catch-up TV, I can do time shift TV, all within the cloud. Again, cost savings to the consumer, cost savings to the aggregators and content owners. 4K UHD, wow, this has been a great technology for us. We pioneered 4K HEVC. We delivered our first solutions in the summer of 2013. We were 2 years ahead of the market. And 4K UHD continues to be an area that we make a lot of investment in. Korea is probably the most advanced networking infrastructure in the world. And we see a lot of 4K, our 4K technology being used here to deliver content. So my belief is that if you've seen any 4K UHD ultra high definition in Korea, it was probably coming off of an elemental encoder somewhere. HEVC is another area that we're making significant investment in. It's very efficient, and we're seeing the next generation of set-top boxes, including HEVC. So we'll be able to process content in the cloud and be completely HEVC compliant. Again, we've been supporting HEVC for over 3 years now. High dynamic range. is the next generation or the next technology that's going to have a very positive impact on the consumer experience, whether you're using 4K or whether you're using H.264. HDR is going to be implemented in both of those scenarios. So existing television sets that may not support 4K will have the benefit of HDR if they're supporting HDR. You're going to see a lot of television sets, whether they're 4K or non-4K, supporting HDR, and a lot of content today is being created again using HDR. So this is an area we're putting a lot of emphasis in because, again, it increases and makes the user experience much better for the consumer as they get a much better video quality. And virtual reality is, it's crazy, but it's coming. We think in 3 or 4 years, most people will be sitting around in their living rooms wearing headsets and headphones and, watching video, right? We did some really cool demonstrations of this, and it's difficult, right? Because you look at virtual reality, the cameras that they use to capture this. You have cameras 360 up on top. You have to stitch all that together, right? You have to stitch it together. You got to make it look good. You have to get to high resolution if you want a good experience, and then you've got to make it. You got to be able to transcode it so it can play adaptive bit rates just in case it's going over an OTT network. So it takes a lot to do that. And we're doing it today. We've worked with Nokia and some of the other leading suppliers of the actual cameras, along with people like Oculus, to make sure that we're doing really high value transcoding of that content so the user experience is a positive one. So the key here is that workflows are no longer linear, that depending on what a customer wants to do, whether it's using an Elemental server for video on demand, or Elemental Live for linear, or Elemental Delta for catch-up and live-to-VOD services, CloudFront for CDN distribution, AWS storage, the fact that customers are using appliances and virtual machines and clouds. It's kind of a real mixture. It's not so linear as it was. There's a lot of different options, which is a good thing. But it had to move this way in order to push those workflows into the cloud. Complete solutions require very, very tight integration between the sources, the cloud deployments, the CDNs, and the display devices. Right? If this is all going to work in the cloud, there has to be tight integration. We have to build the services in the cloud that customers are used to building on the ground. And this includes a lot of these applications existing out here, the content management systems, the storage, the quality control, file-based QC, the digital rights management, ad decisions, watermarking. The beautiful thing about AWS, as you saw if you were here for the previous presentation, is that they've built a great ecosystem of partners that provide this so that we can build these very tightly integrated solutions in the cloud. So we're aligning best-of-breed solutions. It still remains the key to success. It's giving customers the options for the best digital rights management, ad decision engines, quality control. So just providing the workflows in the cloud, as you can see here. We talked about the BBC, we talked about EVS, we talked about Amazon. We have tons of other customers that are moving these complex workflows into the cloud. Some of the customers today that are using our technology, and both as the software implementation and cloud implementation, these are some of the top pay TV operators in the world, some of the top content owners and broadcasters in sports. Right, so this isn't new. What we've been doing in the cloud for our customers, we're enabling really large entities, media entertainment, content aggregators to start moving these workflows to the cloud. And it's happening for all the right reasons. It's flexible, it's cost effective, it's high quality. So just to wrap up in summary, if you had to think about the 3 things, first, the cloud enables media entertainment companies to connect premium content with viewers at massive scale. Right? That's really key. The Elastic Cloud helps drive down costs, it optimizes workflows, it unifies headends, like the 3 examples that we showed. And again, building a better on-ramp to the cloud can happen when you've got a real good, tight integration of all of the components. whether it's the encoding, transcoding, whether it's the distribution, the ad insertion, the DRM, and Amazon today has built an incredible ecosystem to support this. So with that, I want to thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions or comments regarding how to move some of these workflows into the cloud, we have Matthew Ma here, who is our sales manager. He can help coordinate a meeting between Elemental and AWS. If there are any questions on how our customers are doing this or how you can do it, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll support you in any way that you can. Okay? Thank you very much.